Welcome to Nintendo Deep Dive. It's Carl here again. And for those familiar with this setting, you know that we are doing another video game show and tell. And to those unfamiliar, what that entails is me going through my collection of games for a particular system by their chronological release date. So, the games that we are going to be doing for this show and tell are Wii U games. Let's see if I can get this entire thing on the screen here. This is maybe not my favorite Nintendo console, as well. The software library is probably too small, but in terms of just hardware, I love this hardware. And I know there's a lot of people who don't. I also know that a lot of people who don't love it never owned it, but there's also a lot of people lately who have been really speaking highly of the Wii U, which makes me happy because I do think it's one of Nintendo's not best designed, but just as an all-round Nintendo machine, it's really fantastic. And the Wii U, it was released in 2012, November of 2012, and it would go on to be essentially a critical failure with only 13 million units sold, or 13 and a half roughly. And it would essentially dwindle in software support in its final and fourth year, or its fourth and final year rather, and would go on, or not go on, it would die out in ignominy, being replaced by the much more popular Switch. A lot of people who are just casual video game fans and video game consumers didn't even know what this system was. And a few of them still don't. But none of that really matters. I find that a lot of talk about the system is concerning its marketing, its name, which I've never actually hated the name Wii U. It's not great, but whatever. They don't like its name, or that's what the talk is about. Its marketing, its bad marketing, and its name, and its lack of third-party support, and its Nintendo's inability to effectively market this system, all of which are, in my estimation, not terribly important talking points. I mean, I don't really love a Nintendo system because its financial quarter was up, or I don't love a Nintendo system because its marketing team is on point. I love Nintendo systems for the hardware and software experience. And really, for anybody who used the Wii U, I think they were more than happy with both of those things. I mean, I can't speak for them, but at least they ought to be. I think this is a really good Nintendo system. And yeah, nowadays, the Wii U, a lot of retrospectives on it are mostly positive, and people are really about the system. Though there always does seem to be that prolonged discussion about its financial failure and its bad marketing and yada yada yada, which is, I don't know, not what I'm going to be talking about today. So a few of the features of the Wii U, and I entered Art of Balance. Just going to turn the volume up on this. A few of the features. The main one being this tablet. Now I don't have the main screen up because it's over here generating some light. But they essentially took the DS's dual screen gaming and they transferred it over to consoles. And I am very much a fan of that. And it never, as an idea, though I am a fan of it, it never had that one killer hook that a marketer could use, really, like the Switch does, switching it out. I mean, that really just sells the console right there. The Wii U never had that one thing. Instead, what it had is it had just a bunch of smaller, medium features that were pretty cool. One of them being, if you look at this, you can kind of see this little dial here. Press this. This is the top screen, technically. And we'll just turn on the volume. So this is the top screen. And if somebody was using the TV, you could just switch out switch out the image on the TV to your bottom screen and just keep playing. You'd probably want to put headphones in or something, which this does have a nice little jack there. But you could even, depending on your apartment layout or your house layout, walk this about 30 feet away from the TV and maybe play it in the bathroom or in a study. Depending how thick your walls were. It didn't always work. Depending on your layout. Like, it didn't work for certain people, but for other people, such as myself, in both of those examples which I laid out, it completely worked. And it wasn't a feature I ever really used, but that was like one big feature that Nintendo was showcasing, particularly for the Japanese audience where there's only one television in the house, they were saying. But for some games, beyond just being able to do off-TV play, which seems like a prototype for the Switch, there were games that either required the use of two screens or heavily leveraged it. Games that I'll be showing you today in just some time here. And, beyond those features, I assume there's a few more. I mean, this is a touch screen, So managing your UI down here was very convenient for certain things like maps and inventory. It's not the most incredible thing. Again, hard to market, but there are some games on here where playing them with this touchscreen, there's just such a level of convenience to it. And it's not convenience where, I don't know, they balance the game around two screens. It's just like having a touchscreen inventory is just across the board nice for any game with a lot of inventory. A lot of inventories and menus. You didn't really have to build a game for it so much. So, yeah. And then there's other games still where asymmetric multiplayer was a big factor. Games like Nintendo Land, where players on the gamepad were doing different things than the players on the main screen. And that was always fun and had a devious feeling to it. And there was this anticipation for the players on the main screen because they wanted a turn being the guy who got his own little screen, his own little secret screen. And I think that made party games fun, where you were essentially, and this doesn't sound necessarily super fun, but like you were waiting in line for like to play the special mode in those asymmetric multiplayers. And even how do I put it? And even just standard multiplayer games like Call of Duty games, you could actually forgo split screen with this setup, and one player would be on here and one player would be on the TV without having to divide the screen. And that was a small but pretty awesome thing. And, there's also other things, like you had a stylus. So you could even do touchscreen gaming, as is the case in, say, Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. And Art Academy is a game I don't own, but that was a game heavily based on drawing and uploading stuff to Miiverse, and that was a very cool game. Should have picked it up, but I didn't. And speaking of using the stylus to control things, you had DS games on the system. That's right here, Kirby Canvas Curse, which used the stylus a lot. So you could actually purchase DS games on the Wii U Virtual Console, or just from the eShop, rather. They were Virtual Console, essentially. You could purchase them from the eShop, which I'm not going to go to because it's shut down. And they would work because of the touch interface in the stylus. So games like WarioWare touched, and Mario Hoops 3-on-3. Phantom Hourglass uses a lot of touchscreen stuff. Oop. It was pretty cool that, you could have DS games on here, and I like having a stylus. We're just going to go back. And on the topic of Virtual Console, the Wii U, it started a little slower in terms of its Virtual Console than the Wii, but it did have its advantages over the Wii. And it's funny that you could even, if there was games that never came to the Wii U Virtual Console and were on the Wii Virtual Console, well, you could cry and cry about it, or you could just go to the Wii menu, which now I'm looking at it. I don't have the pointer. The pointer out, but that's okay. But you could just purchase games from the old Wii store. And so I don't really know what the fuss was about that, other than I guess it was nice to consolidate your software. So looking at here, one thing that the Wii U had was a huge litany of GBA games, about 76 titles. Minish Cap, Advance Wars, Wario Land 4, Metroid Fusion, on and on and on. Game & Watch Gallery 4, and then N64 games too. Not a terribly huge library, but the N64 doesn't have a large library. And then, of course, Super Nintendo. And then NES, which are a bit scattered, admittedly. Yeah, really great virtual console, and I still own all of them. So I'm not paying to rent them right now, which is really nice. So I have all those virtual console games, and I even have some Wii games. Though, even without these digital purchases, the Wii U is, of course, backwards compatible with all Wii software, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, a lot of nice features on this console. Just a Nintendo machine all around, with old and new titles, all for pretty affordable prices too in its day. The controller itself, I'm just going to shut off the screen here. It's got very comfortable joysticks, very sizable shoulder buttons, nice triggers, not analog, but that's okay. And one thing that's really nice about it is this ridge on the back. This ridge makes it so comfortable to hold with your index. Well, actually, not your index fingers, your middle fingers, while you're doing stuff with your index fingers. This basically can't fall out of your hand, which is very nice. And people, they don't like the Fisher-Price look of this machine, this controller. But I don't know, I never took it as a Fisher-Price tablet, as people referred it to as being. But I just saw it as a regular controller with, albeit a glossy finish, with a big screen in it. Anyway, very much enjoy this console. So much so that I even purchased a second one, just in case this one should fail one day. So, all that said, let's talk about the software lineup. First game I have here is ZombiU. This was a launch title for the Wii U, published by Ubisoft. And admittedly, this case is a little grimy, which is sort of fitting for the game aesthetic. The console came out on November 18th of 2012, by the way. And this game is one of those games that heavily leveraged the Wii U gamepad, its unique features. And it didn't leverage them by creating experiences that showcased its use, like positive experiences, I guess. It actually like leveraged the use of the gamepad through limitations. You couldn't pause in the game, so whenever you were going through your inventory, you were taking your eyes off the main screen onto this screen, which is when you're not paused, is actually sort of tension building, just that act itself. And other times, if you were doing things like ripping boards off a door or entering numbers on a keypad, like here, you would have your eyes down on the bottom screen. So it actually wasn't a game showing off the convenience of the Wii U gamepad so much, but almost the inconvenience of that. And through that, though, it made a very compelling survival horror experience. I have played it, but I only played the multiplayer with my brother, where we were antagonizing each other. But he had the gamepad and I had the Wii remote and nunchuck, and he was creating zombies that were trying to capture flags while I was trying to capture those same flags. And the user interface for the Zombie Master or the Zombie King was so simple, but it was also incredibly fun. Like, you were kind of in your own world, just hearing the screams of the other player who you weren't even looking up at, as you just were setting zombies down with your stylus. And I think my brother really liked that mode more than the classic player mode, because he didn't want to give it up the couple times that we played for an hour apiece. And you could probably get half a dozen hours of fun just out of that mode without even touching the main campaign. This game, when it came out, it got low scores from IGN and GameSpot and other outlets, but it actually upswinged into the green on Metacritic. So, it's actually a pretty good game if we judge everything by what Metacritic says. Anywho, so a super unique game that could only really be done on the Wii U, even though they did port it to other systems. Now, after that, still on launch day, we got Sonic and All-Star Racing Transformed. That "and" symbol was eluding me, sorry. Published by Sega, of course. Developed by Sumo Digital. This game is a game I played long ago. Unfortunately, my general unfamiliarity with Sonic made me put this game down and not pick it up again. But I bought another copy of it, and I do remember the racing being very enjoyable. The Panzer Dragoon level that they show off in the demo is particularly striking. And for the exclusive features on the Wii U, some of these were interesting. The touchscreen on the Wii U gamepad acts as a map, weapon cam, and rear mirror. Now, I don't know why, because you can just have a rear mirror on Mario Kart by just hitting the X button, but a rear mirror on the bottom screen sounds actually like a good use of this of the gamepad. Something about looking down at the rear view mirror rather than changing your entire screen, which to me is always a bit disorientating in Mario Kart. I could be full of it, but that sounds like a nice little feature. Having the rear view mirror down there to just glance at it rather than, disorientating your entire view for a moment. So this was, by all accounts, it was a really well reviewed racing game with fun track ideas as you could transform and all of that. And kind of a pretty good arcade single player. So that was just launch day. Then we have Nintendo Land, which was packed in with most, if not all, deluxe models on launch day. In this game, I have a unpopular opinion, though I think a pretty well-rounded opinion. I really don't think the Wii U's launch was all that terrible. In fact, I would go to say that it was all around decent. I don't know if it's better than any other Nintendo console lineup, though. Well, it's probably better than the N64's lineup, and if people didn't love Breath of the Wild so much, I'd say it's probably better than that one too, or on par with it, and it's certainly better than their handheld launch lineups. And really, it all comes down to Nintendo Land. Think of Wii Sports releasing on, or with the Wii. Nintendo Land is like them releasing Wii Sports Resort instead of Wii Sports. And maybe that's as much a good thing as it is a problem. And maybe that's the problem with Nintendo Land, that it's kind of an overwhelming package that doesn't highlight the main features well enough, and instead is kind of all over the place in a way that someone uncomfortable with this new hardware will they get lost. Even so, though, this game is Nintendo throwing itself a parade for its new console, with all that extravagance that a parade entails, because this game is extravagant and massive, and it will be a game that really can't be done on anything but a Wii U, so it's kind of sunken treasure on a sunken ship, because I don't think you'll see it leave the Wii U ever to other systems. It's kind of like Wario Land on the Virtual Boy. And some people may bemoan that, but I think there's something romantic in it. Because I have the Wii U, so I don't know. I don't care. And this is the best place to play this kind of game. And the game showcases a lot of dual screen gaming, though the best stuff isn't so much the solo stuff. Though the solo stuff does show the dual screen gaming in an enjoyable way. It's mostly the team ups and the competitive modes that show the joy of asymmetric multiplayer. One of them, the best of them, since I've talked about this game too long, is Luigi's Mansion, where the gamepad player is the ghost, and the other players, they are Marios and Warios and Luigis, and they're trying to catch the ghost with a light. And Interesting. They're trying to catch the ghost with the light, and by catching the ghost with the light, they burn him. But if they don't shine their light on the ghost, then the ghost can catch them from behind, and or from the side, wherever, even from the front, and cause them to go unconscious from the scare. And if all the players go unconscious, then the ghost wins. But if the ghost gets shown enough, then he loses, and they win. A simple concept, kind of a game of tag, competitive tag, where both sides are trying to tag each other simultaneously. But ridiculously fun for such a simple concept. And there's other games like that too, such as Mario Chase and Animal Crossing. Sweet Day, I think that's what it's called. Super fun, and I'm not going to go into it more, but that was another game that showcased such things. And, you know, to talk about Nintendo Land for a moment more, there was one mode called Ninja Castle where you use the touchscreen to throw throwing stars at paper mache ninjas in a paper mache feudal Japan castle. And there were so many stages that were tied to that one mini game. It was just extravagant, and the entire package was extravagant how far they went with the 12 mini games. And really, that's why I think the Wii launch, or the Wii U launch, was pretty decent, because Nintendo Land was a massive package overall. And, you know, you already had a zombie horror title and then a good racing title to go with it. So, I don't know. I think the launch is fine, especially now. In addition to that launch, you got new Super Mario Bros. U. This one includes Super Luigi U, which I was debating getting the separate package for because it's green and pretty cool looking. But I'm not that superfluous. This, as a Mario game, probably came at the wrong time. Though, I mean, if you were Nintendo and these games did 30 mil with every release, or 15 mil at least, in the case of the 3DS release, why wouldn't you launch your system with one of them? And I think this was like the third highest selling game on the Wii U, so I don't know. People complain about its release, but at the same time, I don't know. It kind of makes sense why they did. And overall, I think it's the best new Super Mario Brothers game. Not by a long shot, but the level design's very good, and when you include this DLC that came 1 or 2 months after, it's easily the best Mario Brothers game, new Super Mario Brothers game, that is. This by itself is wonderful. I almost thought I could include it as its own game, but I think instead it just sort of strengthens, the package of New Super Mario Bros. U, which, as a game, well, it's not incredible, but it's just good. And with New Super Luigi U, it's very good. And to change gears for a second, I really like the spine of Wii U games. They're white, like the Wii, with a logo, and then they have their own unique title fonts, but then they have this little window here that's a little extra pizzazz. And this blue case, I like it. It's maybe a little unusual, but it's very distinct. And I think just that light aquatic blue is really nice looking. But yeah, New Super Mario Brothers U. It's one of those, but the best one. And that came out on launch day as well. And also coming out on launch day, we had Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Now, this is an interesting game because it is one of the only Call of Duty games to come out on a Nintendo system and be at full parity with full parity with other Call of Duty releases. And that's why I picked it up, because not only, well, actually, that's not the reason I picked it up, but that is a bonus. I picked it up for the same reason that I picked up the Call of Duty games on the Wii, and that is you get to use IR motion controls or IR aiming in this game, which is always a good time for me, and I'm always about doing that. It's just so much fun to aim that way. And not only do you get to use your IR aiming, you get a Call of Duty that actually has graphics that are on the level as the other systems at the time. And even today, I think that because the Wii U is a 7th gen console, but a late 7th gen console, games in the late 7th gen look a lot better than early and mid 7th gen, so it's a pretty nice looking game, I'd say. Just going to move my camera back a touch. Not that it really helps. So after Call of Duty Black Ops 2, which I didn't mention this, but that's one of the strongest Call of Duty titles too. So there's that. After Call of Duty Black Ops, we got Rabbids Land, which this is sort of a speculative purchase as the reviews for this one are not so hot. The main reason being that you have one board, and that board, that one party board, is pretty dull. And this is, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a Mario Party style game, but there's only one board, and it's quite dull. And more than that, all the mini games you play are 2-player, and they're 2-player in a 4-player game, so you'll always have 2 players subbed out. Even so, the reason I bought it is because the reason all these games are 2-player is because it's all about facing off one player on the top screen against one player on the bottom screen. So there's at least maybe 30 asymmetric multiplayer games in this, and that seems worth trying out, as the asymmetric multiplayer experience on the Wii U is so much fun. And it goes back to that notion of just being that player waiting for your turn on the special device on the secret screen. But that might not actually be a terribly good game. And after Rabbids Land, well, we have one more launch title, And I don't own it physical. I was thinking about it, but I don't think it's required. And that would be Darksiders 2. Now, Darksiders 2 did come out 3 months prior on the PS3 and Xbox 360. And maybe I sound a little defensive, but I think that's a relative launch window parity for that game to matter on the Wii U right here, especially since in that 3-month period, the developers ironed out many of its glitches, which there were a few on launch. They included all of the DLC for free, and also it had Wii U gamepad features like inventory management and map management, which not revolutionary or exciting, but overall it made Darksiders 2 at the time, and maybe even today, the definitive Darksiders experience, or Darksiders 2 experience. So, again, yeah, it came out not with it didn't have full release parity with the other consoles, but it came out soon after, and for those who wanted to wait, it wasn't a long wait. So I included Darksiders 2. I didn't include things like on this list, I didn't include things like Mass Effect 3 or Batman Arkham City Armored Edition, which I own that one because, well, they were out a year before, and having them re-release on the Wii U, there wasn't all that much benefit to it, especially since Mass Effect Trilogy was just around the corner, or releasing at the same time on other systems. So, yeah, not important. In addition to Darksiders 2, which not necessarily the biggest title, but it looks like a really solid action-adventure title for launch day. And yeah, I don't know, I haven't played it. I look forward to playing it. But in addition to it, still on launch day, we got Art of Balance by Shinen, which it's more of a AA indie experience, but I guess it's closer to AA, as it's a fun puzzle game. And then Nano Assault Neo, still more AA, but you'd think it's a port of a 3DS game by the name, but it's actually an entirely different game, and the graphics are significantly better. So I counted it as a launch title, even though I never got a physical release that I know of. So overall, I think that's about 10 games that came out at the Wii U's launch that are worth playing. And I think that's a pretty good go. And had they kept up with the games from there, well, I don't think anybody would be complaining about droughts on the Wii U, but it wasn't until March 18th after that, which is a fair span of time, that we got Lego City Undercover, which this is, at the time, an exclusive for the Wii U. And unlike other Lego games, it wasn't based off of a pre-existing license. Sorry for slurring my words. It was its own story and its own just got some schmutz on there, sorry. Its own intellectual property, or whatever you want to say. I guess you could say it's based off the City franchise from Lego. But this was a open world Lego game fashioned after GTA, but with Lego characters. and more lighthearted and funnier, I guess, though kind of targeted at children as much as it was targeted at adults. Purportedly a very good game and a very good exclusive. I haven't touched it for 1 second, so I have nothing else to say. After Lego City Undercover, the next game to come out, excuse me, the next game to come out for the Wii U was Game & Wario. Very expensive, so I never got my hands on it. But Game & Wario was very different from other WarioWare games, as it wasn't based off of micro games, but mini games. And, well, the mini games kind of varied in quality, which makes sense as, micro games, even if they're not very good or deep, while they're only 5 seconds long. But the mini games, which are a bit longer, if they were not too hot, that would be a problem. Even so, this game did not review well at the time, but I think I don't know how to put it other than I think like people, as time has gone on, this game definitely has its own legacy due to things like Gamer up here, which Gamer is probably the most ingenious thing done on the Wii U gamepad, or done with the Wii U hardware, and done in WarioWare. As a Gamer, which is featured in Smash Brothers and elsewhere, again, it's all about not showing what not making experience optimized for dual screen gaming, but making an experience that is almost suboptimal, where there is tension in looking away from the screen as you have to do the micro games, playing them on the gamepad, while glancing up at the top screen because your mother might find you, and then you'll get in trouble, and then you game over. And that's a very bland PG description of the game. The events that take place in the game, as there's a very absurd thematic overture, let's call it, within the game. It's essentially a horror experience. And, even beyond that, like, while something like Patchwork wasn't any good, or Ski wasn't any good, something like Shudder was very, very smart. And then Islands and Fruit Thief, and even Sketch, I think, which was a Miiverse game. I could be wrong. Oh, yeah. Those games were like kind of endlessly enjoyable. Well, I don't know, but endlessly. So I haven't played too much of this game, but I have every indication that it's actually one of the more memorable WarioWare titles, that is, specifically. So I'm very happy to own it, but I think at the time it was considered a dud. But kind of what I was getting at is, while half the titles are no good, perhaps the other half are making up for it by quite a bit. So after Game & Wario, which came out in June, in August, so there is certainly a stretch of time between these releases. Not unusual, but yeah, definitely a stretch of time. Well, we got this game right here. And this game is a marvel. I can't really talk about it too much because, well, it would just be 20 minutes of just Pikmin 3 talk. This is a phenomenal game. And it's a phenomenal game that, well, I don't actually own the disc for. I just wanted a physical representation of it. Excuse me. But this game, it was just something else. And these are actually kind of nice little menus. A little too short, but they're very nice actually. This game, it exists for the Switch, but as everybody has said, you don't really play this game unless you're playing it on the Wii U, as it's optimized for it. And it wasn't actually until later that they fully optimized the game for the Wii U, as when it came out, the best way to play it was with the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, and then you had the gamepad, if you could, on a music stand or something. But it's a bit clunky and a bit of a setup. The best way to play it, they added a year later with stylus controls, and you could flick and aim your Pikmin, dragging the stylus across the screen, and it was just a great way to do it. It also meant that you could access all of the GameFAD features right away without having to put down a Wii Remote or something like that. And it also had more fidelity in aiming than using the analog sticks. So, this is a phenomenal game. One of the best games Nintendo has ever made. Probably a top 5 candidate, easily. With gaming, and again, I'm not really going to talk about the specifics. I'm just going to talk generally while you look at this very beautiful cover, which is why I bought this case. With gaming, due to the fact that it costs money to make a video game product, there's a general zero-sum game involved, or can be involved with it, as if you're selling it for a market suggested retail price of $50 or $60 no matter what, then it doesn't actually benefit you to put more money in than your set budget, to keep your profit margins. And so generally, if games are highlighting one feature, one big new feature to tell you that this game is bigger and better than ever, other things will be neglected. It just makes sense. More money goes into this, that leaves less money to go into that. Emphasis on single player, less emphasis on multiplayer, unless they can kind of package the multiplayer with older stuff. But Pikmin 3, they put so much effort into one thing, into one aspect of it, like the menu design, and it doesn't come with the cost of something else. Something else doesn't suffer because of it. The single player is fantastic, but then the multiplayer offerings are also fantastic. You can even bigger than the single player offerings, which people have said are short, but your first time through it'll probably take you 20 hours. So I think it took me 30 actually. So the idea that the single player short is kind of silly, but regardless, the multiplayer is massive. The menus are fantastic. The UI design is wonderful. So you might think that just the baseline graphics would be suffering. No, they don't. And same with the effects, like the graphical effects are really good in that game. So you would think that, yeah, maybe the baseline graphics, the textures would be a little more so-so. And some of the ground textures are a bit flat, but otherwise, though, the baseline graphics are beautiful. There's just nothing about that game where somebody phoned it in, it would seem. And beyond just having marvelous gameplay, that makes this game truly excellent. And, even though it's on other systems, if you want to play Pikmin 3, you should pay the $100 to pick up a Wii U to do it, and then you can find that for maybe $15. So, praise for Pikmin 3 aside. In, I think, August as well, we got Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Blacklist, which there was a bit of controversy around this game in that Michael Ironside was not voicing Sam Fisher, but I've actually heard Splinter Cell fans say that this is the best Splinter Cell by a long stretch. The campaign looks super fun. The multiplayer actually looks super fun. It's kind of asymmetric in that there are assassins and then there's spies and then there's operators. I don't know quite what the terminology is, but that looked super fun. The campaign is co-op, and there's a lot of bigger levels with more enemies and smarter AI. Blacklist is apparently a fantastic Splinter Cell, and I own it on the Wii U. So, I think it came out at the same time as other versions too. And after Splinter Cell Blacklist came out, and you can kind of see that we're actually picking up steam in 2013. In early September, just 2 weeks after Splinter Cell Blacklist, we got a new exclusive with the wonderful 101. And this is a marvelous piece of box art here. This was developed by Platinum Games. And when you look at it, you almost think it's almost like a Pikmin game, as you are controlling all of these little dudes. But it's not really a Pikmin game. It's more of a character action game like Bayonetta. But even then, it's very, very different. The game is full of so many wonderful ideas and changes of pace, and lots of fun little gameplay quirks, including, the main one being Unite Morph, where you attack things by drawing a basic shape with either the analog stick or the stylus. I would say the analog stick is actually the best way to do it. So you draw an L shape for a gun, or a line for a sword, or a circle for a fist, or a zigzag for a whip. And then those are your basic forms of attack. And the bigger you draw these things, the stronger and larger these attacks are. And basically the 100 heroes, I don't know where the 101 comes from. Maybe that's a story thing. The 100 heroes comprise these objects that you are constructing. And there's lots of other things too, like you can do basic traversal with this shape drawing system. Drawing ladders, drawing gliders with a triangle shape. And it's all isometric and very cartoony. And it's just a ton of fun. And mostly it doesn't really use the dual screen function all that much. But There are times where it just, there's just this one-off idea that they have with it that's a whole lot of fun. The one that I can think of being you are flying a frigate, an enemy frigate, on the top screen by having your characters on the bottom screen run around and hit floor switches to make the vehicle go left or right, or up or down on the vertical axes. And while you're doing that on the bottom screen, you see your vehicle moving. And I remember my vehicle became unresponsive on the top screen. It was taking hits, and then I looked down, and an enemy had infiltrated my vehicle and knocked out all my little dudes, so they weren't doing anything, as I had just been speculatively moving them left and right, thinking they were up and about. It's a super funny idea. There's not a lot of uses that are smart like that, but there's a few more. I think overall that's the thing with the Wii U. It never had that killer hook because a lot of the best ideas with the Wii U gamepad were kind of one-off ideas or side modes. But I still appreciate that because even if the dual screens weren't in use as a controller, it's still just a very functional controller, albeit with a relatively short battery life. And yeah, I think that's very valuable to me. Just having a one-off idea that's fun rather than earth-shattering or disruptive, even like the Wii technology was, as much as I really enjoy Wii technology. So, I don't know. Wonderful 101, though. Super solid exclusive. And after Wonderful 101... Oh, I've made a mistake. Before Wonderful 101, we got Rayman Legends, which came out in early September, very early September. And Wonderful 101 actually came out mid-September. So Rayman Legends was intended as an exclusive for the Wii U, and it's a sequel to Rayman Origins. But the Wii U was already starting to flag in sales, so they decided to make it multi-platform. I'm not really bothered by this as, well, I mean, it was delayed, which was very vexing, but I'm not really bothered by this because this is still basically an exclusive, as the definitive version of this is on the Wii U, as it uses Wii U features throughout its runtime, particularly the Murphy levels, which I'm not sure those would be super terribly enjoyable by yourself, though I think they're all right. I think they reworked them in the Xbox and PS3 versions to be kind of automatic, but in the Wii U version, you have one player take over as Murphy. And it's a touchscreen interface, but he's just moving stuff out of the way or moving platforms into place. And so you're having to cooperate with the player and yourself as Murphy, even fighting bosses. Like you can kind of see here, you're grabbing onto the ring of the dragon's nose to expose a weakness or something. I don't remember that part, but it's kind of right there. And I don't know how you would have done that in the Xbox versions. And even the version on the Switch is probably just based off of those. But it's a fantastic platformer with some really fantastic ideas. The art style is beautiful, though admittedly a little off-putting. It's just very zany and almost grotesque sometimes, but still very vibrant and beautiful too. And I believe the first game is almost included wholesale in this package, or like half of it. It's hard to say. So, fantastic platformer. And we have the Ubisoft titles just lining up on the Wii U. And then there's Wonderful 101 by Platinum. Then we have this beauty here, The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, which came out October 4th of 2013. And this game, I include it as an original title on the Wii U because its additions and even some of its subtractions, let's be real, make it a unique experience only on the Wii U. And this game, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by the beauty of this disc art here. Not only does this game just have very beautiful box art for its re-release, this game's gamepad features really change how you play the game, or how the game plays, I guess. You're not really changing how you play the game, but like in that way that you're playing it, it's massively improved. I can't really describe it better than that. And they added a lot of things for this game. A lot of them were just quality of life improvements, like less Triforce charts to get, and just instead having those replaced with Triforce shards, making that a little quicker. And they added gyro aiming for the bows and the boomerangs. And you also could move around while aiming too, which was very nice. And that makes that stuff actually really enjoyable. The Wind Waker original, its aiming is quite stiff. Still workable, but it's quite stiff. But the big thing was, on the open sea, you could see which way you were going as you were picking your wind direction without having to pause the screen before doing it. Because sometimes you would set the wind and you realized you were like a tick off. And in practice, in the original game, that didn't really matter, but it sort of just, in your mind, you thought maybe it could matter. Even though, as long as you're going in the general direction of the wind, almost even perpendicular, you could be going perpendicular, it wouldn't matter too much. But with this version, you could just set the wind perfectly with your rather perfectly in the intended direction without having to pause, and it was very seamless. And even little things like you could be looking through your treasure charts and your other charts, and there's many charts in this game, so there's a lot of downtime where you want to be looking through those, but as you're looking through them on the gamepad screen, you were just sailing in the direction. You were just sailing, getting stuff done. So by the time you were looking, or by the time you were done looking through your charts, you were already at your destination in a way, which is very fun multitasking. And that's my favorite thing about this game. And it's, on a gameplay level, it's the most definitive way to play Wind Waker. Though, art style wise, I think Wind Waker is better looking on the GameCube, actually. There's just a little too much bloom lighting in this version that muddles the cell shading. Muddles is an odd word, but we'll stick with it. And after Wind Waker HD, still in October, we got another exclusive, though I think it was out on PC as well. We got Sonic Lost World, which I haven't played a lick of, but I think it's one of the better Sonic games. Not the best, but one of the better ones. I like the look of the stages, though haven't played a lick of it because I have played the demo and I think he moves a little funny, but Sonic Lost World is essentially somewhat inspired by Super Mario Galaxy, so the levels kind of take shape after that to some degree. It's supposed to be a decent Sonic title, and I thought it was worth picking up. And, well, after that, after Sonic Lost World came out, because I don't really have much to say about it, in October still, we got Wii Party U, which has a very beautiful bit of box art here. The only thing I've really heard about Wii Party U is that it's not as good as Wii Party on the Wii. But aside from that, it seems like there was every indication that it was a very good party game on the Nintendo Wii U, and just a good party game in general. One of the cool things I heard about this game was, I think it's called Gamepad Party Mode, which comes with this silly stand, which I don't have. But Gamepad Party Mode had two different players taking one side of the Wii U gamepad, and each of them having an analog stick. And with that analog stick, they would be playing a different team, they would be playing, as different players across from the other players, like in a game like foosball. So you were playing virtual top-down foosball on the Wii U gamepad, which just sounds so ridiculous. And there was only 6 game types with just the gamepad, but one of them's foosball, one of them's baseball, and there's a few more, but otherwise, it's just another Wii party game, though with a seemingly less impressive board, I'll say, which is disappointing, but I don't know. It's not as good as the Wii version, I guess, but I guess the mini games are better, so I don't know. It's one of those complaints that seems entirely comparative, and otherwise completely worth buying on the Wii U. And even using some of those Wii U exclusive features that the Wii U was actually really good for in party games. So, after Wii Party U, same day actually, never mind, October 25th, 2013, we got Batman Arkham Origins, published by Warner Brothers, rated T for teen. And this game is not really well loved among Batman Arkham fans, and I think all of the reasoning is completely ridiculous. Admittedly, I guess it's maybe disappointing that the Joker was voiced by Troy Baker and not Mark Hamill, but I remember Troy Baker doing a very, very fine job. I think Kevin Conroy was still Batman, but maybe he wasn't. Either way, this game at the time was seen as more of the same from Arkham City, but I've played Arkham City. In fact, I've only played Origins and Arkham City, and Origins is a better game than Arkham City. The world it's not necessarily more filled with stuff to do, and maybe it doesn't have the same kind of emergent events, but just the iconography of the world in Arkham Origins with the big city or not the big city, the big suspension cable bridge in the center that you're going across. I remember that being a big set piece, and you going either doing missions there or just passing through it. It was a lot more exciting than a subway station that you visited almost half a dozen times, as was the case in Arkham City. And this isn't going to be me complaining about Arkham City, but this game, it was probably very iterative, but it just seemed to be better than that game. And the one high point of it, maybe they show you it here. I don't think they do. The one high point of it is the boss fights, particularly Bane and Deathstroke, and even Firefly. All very good. I remember Mr. Freeze being well liked back in the day, and it's fine, but these boss fights are very enjoyable, and they were the high point of this game and the high point in terms of boss fights in the series. And I think people have started kind of singing this game's praises as being very underrated because there's really nothing wrong with it. And I don't know, sometimes people just are, they just get fatigued by a franchise, and whatever game came out during that fatigue is now the whipping boy for that reason, that it was the one that they became fatigued or were fatigued when it came out. But that game came out for the Wii U as well as other systems, day and date, and was very, very good. So after Arkham Origins, we got Wii Fit U. And, well, I haven't played this game, but it's apparently the best Wii Fit game. And a lot of stuff takes place on Woohoo Island, which is really fun, and apparently all the mini games in this version are the best mini games. I actually do intend to maybe try to get in shape with this game. Though, who's to say when that will happen? I mean, by this point, I suppose Wii Fit was kind of not exciting anymore, but they did a good version of it on this system. Maybe even the best version. And I think with Wii Fit U, you can kind of see games like Nintendo Land, wherever that is. It's just right here. Yeah, with Nintendo Land and Game & Wario owned digitally, and then Wii Party U and Wii Fit U, they still were trying to live up to the Wii name on this system, as it is a continuation, even though another aspect of the system was that they were trying to appeal to hardcore gamers as well, but they also wanted to play to their casual audience still. But after Wii Fit U, I'm not really sure there is any more Wii style games coming out for the systems. Systems that would really leverage Mii's, or not systems, games that would really leverage Mii's and stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting, but even without the success of their casual party, I've been talking too much. Even without the success of their casual titles, they still put out some really good ones on the system. And, well, I don't know, that's good enough for me. I don't love these games, or games collectively, I guess. I don't love these games or games in general because they're financially successful. So, with all that said, after We Fit You, which came out in November, the first day of November, in just a few days after that, we got Call of Duty Ghosts, which has a very beautiful back panel here. And I said that Black Ops 2 is considered one of the best Call of Duties, whereas this one is considered, I think it's considered one of the worst, or not, well, it's hard to say. I think with time, it's actually probably looked at more favorably. But that doesn't matter to me, as I bought it because I always want another shooter with IR aiming, which this has. And beyond that, even without online, there's actually a lot of good single player options on this game, such as bots and multiplayer. It has a zombie mode that uses not zombies this time, and it's like kind of set up like a campaign. And in addition to a bunch of other nice Wii features, Wii U gamepad features like asymmetric split screen, if that's what we want to call it. Yeah, I thought this was definitely worth owning. Even if it's not the best Call of Duty, I will have a fun time with it because of the controls. And I think we're going to stop this part. We're going to stop here and come back for a part 2 for my Wii U games show and tell. So please look forward to that and continue watching on to part 2. Thank you.